Welcome to the MumBoss podcast. This is a space for women who have transitioned to growing a business midlife or who are presently transitioning. The catalyst for your change may be motherhood, just like mine. And the vessel for increased flexibility and freedom comes from building your own heart-led business. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the MumBoss podcast, to the series that I am dedicating to membership growth or community building. And today's episode is going to be looking at how early is too early to consider launching a membership. So I speak to a lot of people who knock on my door saying, I would love to have what it is that you have, but I feel like I'm too early in my business to do it. And so I really just want to dive in with my unfiltered opinions about time length that you need to be in business in order to be able to launch a successful membership. The answer to this is very much dependent on what your expectations are for what a successful membership looks like. So if it's a case, I actually remember a couple of years ago, I was attending a mastermind where a really successful established membership business owner was speaking to us. She has more than 1,000 people inside her membership space. And I remember specifically her saying the words that you needed to have 10,000 people in your audience in order to be able to launch a membership. And I was sitting there and knowing what my backstory is, which I'll share with you in a little bit, and just going, that's so completely wrong. And it's so scary for people who are listening to someone like you, who are learning and investing their time in someone like you and thinking that everything you've got to say is the right thing, and feeling like they're far too early to be able to do it because they don't have 10,000 followers. So, what I would say is you could be on either end of the extreme in terms of being an established business owner and adding a membership as an offer to your offer suite that you already have available. If it is a case that you are an established entrepreneur, if it is a case that you are selling out your offers, if it is a case that you have a long waiting list of clients waiting to work with you, if it's a case that you are tired of using your expertise on a one-to-one basis and you would love to be able to shift across to a one-to-many method instead, then a membership is an absolute no-brainer for someone like you, because what we've just talked about here, you already have an audience, a large audience behind you. And instead of using your time creating content for an unpaid audience in social media, to instead create your content for a paid community of higher prospective clients, better leads for your business going forward, instead of those lurkers and followers and people who are always watching and liking your stuff but never actually becoming a client of yours, you instead focus your attention on creating content for a membership space, typically a low financial investment, a high accessible place for people to be able to come into, to step into your space, to get to know you better, to trust you more, to learn from you more before they're ready to make a financial commitment to work with you, say one-to-one down the line. Why do you think that this is a no-brainer option for you to do? Well, on top of the fact that it's an additional offer income stream for you inside your business, it's also going to provide you with so much stability and security going forwards. Like, I know many established business owners who are absolutely afraid to take their foot off the accelerator and take time off. I know a lot of people who really celebrate themselves to be able to take a 2-week holiday. They literally think it is the best thing as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that they're able to go away on a 2-week holiday and, mostly take time off the laptop, because they would still be on their phone kind of a little bit. This is not how I operate and how I love to build my business and how I love to support my mentees, clients, and members to build their businesses, because we've only got one life. Life is far too important to me to be spending all of the time working. I'm growing businesses, I'm helping other people grow businesses that support your precious life, that allow you to take ample time off if you choose, to go and holiday or be with your friends, be with your family, do your hobbies, go hang out with your friends, go to activities, do stuff that feeds your life, instead of spending all your time working on and in your business because you're afraid if you stop working, the client feed is going to end somewhere. So if you are an established entrepreneur and you have an offer suite that is in line with your time being traded for money on a constant basis because you're required one-to-one, for example, then this income stream that provides stability and security in the sense of monthly recurring revenue is going to give you so much breathing room that you didn't know you needed, until you see it, until you feel it, until it's there in your bank account and you're realizing, okay, this is something that's going on steady in the background. It's going to allow me to take a 4-week break if I so wish and head off wherever it is I want to head off. That's exactly what I did this summer. You know, this summer gone past, I spent 6 weeks traveling in Florida with my family, and I wasn't working during that time except for my membership, which required me to show up maybe 3 or 4 times in the entire 6 weeks that I was there. So 3 or 4 hour calls in an entire 6-week holiday abroad. That's what the membership focused business model allows you to be able to do. Breathing space, breathing room. Now, if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I'm not an established entrepreneur and I don't have a wait list and I don't have clients knocking down my door saying that they want to work with me, I want you to take a big, huge, deep breath in and release all the pressure that you might be holding around that, because that's exactly how I got started. And all that really needs to happen here is that you alter your expectations of what a successful membership looks like. If you don't have an audience of 10,000 followers like that mentor spoke about a couple of years ago in a mastermind that I was in, if you don't have that and you don't have the expectation to launch a membership with hundreds of members inside there already, then adjusting your expectations to what does a lovely community group getting started with feel like what are the numbers attached to that? I have known mentees of mine in the past have gotten started with communities with as little as 5 members inside there. If you're coming from a place whereby you have not got an established business behind you, if you're coming from a place where you've not built a reputation and a brand for a number of years, then starting off with this small group community of 5 people who say to you, yes, we want to be in your space now, this month, and next month, and the month after that, and the month after that, then that's what you are sinking your teeth into, and you're saying, this feels like something that is manageable for me to grow right now. It's in my capacity to be able to spend time with these 5 people. And I'm going to really learn and soak up as much as I possibly can from this small group who are going to be telling me what it is that they want from me, what it is that they want from this community. And then I'm going to be able to create a space specifically for them and get testimonials and case studies from them so that I can use it as a springboard to be able to launch it again in 2 months' time and bring in more people. And then, you know, what you're really looking at here is stacking the people, growing the people inside your membership, and then also stacking the income in terms of the people who are already there and the new ones who are going to be arriving. So, you know, when you are smaller in audience size or newer in the business sphere, then it becomes a different focus of what your membership is going to look like. So, for instance, if I was to talk into the established entrepreneur again, the membership space may be a place where not a huge amount of time, energy, and effort is going into, because they're already established. They've already built up trust and confidence in their audience. They already have a reputable brand. And really what they're doing here is providing a space for people to get access to them in terms of a first step, maybe people who had been considering working with them in the past, but weren't yet ready to make the financial investment. And so for somebody in that space, then the membership gets to offer people the opportunity, closer proximity to them, without them having to give away all the goods and be in there all the time and be making all the connections and, offering all of the value. Again, this perspective does need to be altered if you're not an established entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to do it. So the altered perspective is, if you don't have a reputable brand behind you, if you've not been growing your business for a number of years, if you haven't had a huge list of client feedback and results that you're able to really sort of lean on to be able to grow your business, if you don't have a huge audience on social media just yet, or even if you don't have an email list built up yet, then you're in a very different position in your business in terms of what your perspective and your expectations should be as you launch your membership. And so I would be advising you that your focus would really be on deep connection, meaningful work inside your community space, whereby you are really putting more effort, attention, and energy into that space. Even if there's a handful of people inside there, you are becoming the visionary for something bigger, and you're seeing that small cohort of 5 people inside there as the seed that you get to nurture to grow something fabulous 12 months from now, or even incredibly huge, an empire 3 years from now. It's up to you, whatever your vision is, but you must set your expectations depending on how long you've been in business and how long you've been growing an audience for, because you simply do need an audience to be able to sell your offers to them. And that goes for everyone in business. And we've got to be constantly growing our audience, bringing new people, new blood into our spaces where we communicate with people, so that we have people to sell our offers to and that our audience doesn't stagnate. If it's a case that you are a newer business owner and you're in the situation where you're trying to consider, do I keep going ahead with my one-to-one work? Do I create a course? Do I focus my attention on one-to-many group programs, or do I, start a membership? You've got loads of options available to you. That's great. Okay, you've got loads and loads of options available to you. So I would really get you to settle into your head and ask yourself, what kind of business would I love to be running 12 months from now? Instead of thinking about the short-term cash injections that you can bring into your business, like I talk to so many people who are like, I'd love to have a membership, but once I get my business up and running and I'm bringing in more money through coaching programs, then, and they put a condition on it, then I'll make time and space and I'll create a membership down the line. And I always I think back to me when I was making those decisions, and for me, what felt right at the time was to take action on the kind of business that I wanted to build for the future, rather than taking action on what was going to mean small cash injections for me in the immediate term. I always thought bigger picture. I always thought what is most important to me: time, freedom, flexibility, and being at home with my children when they're small. And what business model was going to feed all of those things? And a membership was just up clear as day in front of me for that. It was going to allow me not be trading my time for money anymore. It was going to be allowing me to invest my time and energy into a cohort of people who were like-minded, who I loved spending time with, who I could learn from, and then develop products from learning what it is that they were actually needing from me. And so this is something that you can consider doing too. If you don't have that big audience behind you, you don't have that big reputation behind you, you can focus your attention and energy on growing your membership space and letting that be the very fundamental foundations for all of the offers you get to make in your business down the line. And that's literally what I have done over the last few years. It began as the seed of the membership, a small group community inside there, and then putting heart and energy and time into the people that were inside there and connecting with them and getting to know them and building meaningful relationships with them and getting feedback on what it is that this space they wanted it to look like. How would they design it? Who would they want to be hearing from? And then I started to grow my membership based on what they were looking for. And then after a period of time, I started to layer other offerings into my business. So, I might just share with you my pathway because it's my truth and you can look at it and you can gauge where you're at in it. I have worked with people who've been way further down the line than me and have launched and done things way greater and quicker than I ever could. But my journey is my journey. It's my experience. It's my story. And I think it's a really good example of someone who has had priorities of not working excessively long hours. And I want to make a distinction here about excessively long hours and hard work, because I work hard. I don't work long, I work hard, I work smart. The truth of the matter is that I never typically work more than 25 hours in the week. It's more usual for me to work less than 20 hours in the week. It happens in the mornings when my kids are at school. And I take my school holidays off, my kids' holidays. I typically take them all off, which means I'm not working at all during those times. So burnout is not something that I've ever teetered with in the last few years of my business. Exhaustion is not anything that I've teetered with. Mental angst has been something I have teetered with for sure. But I think as an entrepreneur, anyone who's growing their own business, you're going to go through times where you're like, oh, I need to break through the next piece. I need clarity. I've lost my way. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it enough? Am I showing up enough? And so the mental angst side of things has certainly been there for me. But I've not worked excessively long hours in order to build the business that I've been able to build. And so I think it's a really good pathway for people to be able to learn from. So I'm going to share what I did when I first got started out. So we're going back to 2022, and in the February of 2022, I launched an Instagram page from nothing, zero reputation, zero people following me, zero people knowing who I was. The MumBoss Coaching and Mentoring Company as a brand name didn't even exist. Like in the public field or in my head, it didn't exist. So in February of 2022, I launched an Instagram page. I say launch, what does I mean launch? I started an Instagram page with the idea in my head that I wanted to grow a community. So I was getting into it with zero followers, zero people on my email list, but clarity in my mind that I wanted to grow a membership. Because like what I talked about earlier, I was asking myself, what kind of business did I want to be running in 12 months' time? And so I started taking action on it from then. My expectations were in alignment with the fact that I had no following, I had no audience. Okay, so what is it that I was looking to create? If I could create a community and have 10 people inside there to begin with, I was going to be winning because I had nobody. And so I consciously grew an Instagram page for the first 5 to 6 months. And when I say I consciously grew an Instagram page, what I'm really talking about here is showing up and offering value. Back then I was trying to do lots of entertaining reels, connecting with people who I wanted to pinpoint the current problem point that they were going through, sharing my knowledge in the positive psychology field about how to support your well-being when you're growing a business. And so with intention, I started to grow an Instagram page for about 5 to 6 months. And then when I had curated, it grew quite quickly, I have to say. Those first 6 months is probably the fastest an Instagram page has ever grown for me. And because I think I got up close to 1,000 followers in those first 6 months. And I don't think since then I've made 1,000 followers in 6 months. So those initial few months, I worked hard in the time frames that I had allotted myself to create content and to build a reputation around what it is that I wanted to become known for. And so then I decided to put it out there to the Instagram audience and the small little email list I had grown, if I remember right, I think I had 66 people on my email list. It was definitely less than 70. And so I launched to my community that I had grown at that point in time. And when I say I launched, I said to them, I've got this great idea. I'm thinking about starting a community, a space for us to be able to come together and talk about, the hardships involved in growing a business and get support from one another. It's really lonely, all of us here working at home from ourselves, especially those of us who've come from a working environment. In the corporate world or in the public sector, we're used to working with people, and now we found ourselves at home, working alone, and it's a very lonely place to be. And so I put that out there to see who might be interested in it. And I had loads of people just come back and click the little link sticker in my Instagram page. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So what I did then was create an Excel document, and I literally typed out every single person's name who had kind of raised their hand and said, this is something that I'm interested in. And so then I went about my business forming relationships with those people. And so that meant, yes, creating the content for social media as I had been doing before, but also getting into the DMs with that person and sending them personal voice notes whereby this is where I'm at, where are you at? They'd come back and say something back to me, and I'd have a conversation with them. I'd literally get to know them, so that we had this period of time where the people who had raised their hands and said this is something that I could be quite interested in, I had gotten to know them in quite a good way inside the DMs back and forth. And so when it officially came to me saying, let's get going on this, are you ready to commit and invest into this membership? 37 people said yes. And so this was an incredible achievement at the time, because like I said, I had started at zero. Now, I would have been happy, genuinely, I would have been happy if I had 8 people inside there. If I had 8 people to get started with, I'd have been like, I'm winning here because this is something to grow on. But it ended up being, quadruple that, who actually said yes at the time. So I just really felt like, wow, this is something, I've got something here. And I suppose that gave me added confidence to be like, I've got something great here to be able to grow. And so because I was just starting out in business, I didn't have all of the other offers available. Like I talked about earlier, that established entrepreneur who might have loads of things going on, and this membership model might just be an additional income stream to their business. At that point in time for me back in 2022, I didn't have anything else going on. And so I focused my heart, my soul, my everything into the membership space. I gave myself to it. And I really just invested my time in the people. I wanted to find out who they were, not just in their business, but in their lives. What was their families? How were they finding growing a business? What did they do before? What was challenging for them? What successes had they had? And so I invested my time in this little spark that I could see that if I fanned it for a little bit, it could really grow into something blazing, a blazing fire in the future. And so that's what I did for, I would say, about I'm going to say 6 months, is I just invested my time and energy into that membership only, growing it very incrementally, moving up a few people. I think I launched maybe 2 times, and I'd gotten it up to maybe around 50 people inside that membership space within the first 6 months. I was delighted because, again, my expectations, where I was coming from, was that I didn't have a brand behind me. And so you might be listening to this and maybe you're resonating with this. Maybe you're saying, that's exactly like me now. I don't have a huge reputation. So if that is you, I just want you to know that it can be done, but you have to adjust your expectations of what you're starting off with, and you have to increase your expectations of the time, energy, and effort that you want to put into it if you really want to grow something substantial. So what happened after the first 6 months of my membership? This is really where things started to take over and my business started to explode, because I was finding out from my people inside my membership what it is that they wanted, and what different things were coming up that they wanted workshops on, or that I could do small group coaching programs on, and events and things like that. So I decided to launch an event. It was exclusive for my membership, so it meant that anyone who was inside my membership, it was only them that were getting access to my events. And so this was the next sort of offering that I had inside my business. And then I think after a year of running my membership, I went and I actually launched a second membership. Can you believe it? I launched a second membership. And so what I saw it like at the time was a second tier to the first tier that I already had. So loads of people were inside my community for that year going, oh my God, the space that you're growing is incredible. I would love to do this for myself too. And because of all the trainings that I had invested in myself in, I had gone to Canada to learn from experienced membership business owners over there, and I'd spent 18 months involved in those communities, learning how to launch a really good community membership. I'd spent 12 months inside a high-level mastermind over in Australia, again, learning how to design, launch and grow a membership. So when people inside my community were coming to me going, I would love to be able to do this too, I was like, well, I can teach you. I can teach you how to do it. And so I launched a second tier to my membership. And so I want you to envision what you can do when you focus on something small and you give your heart, energy, time, effort and soul to the people inside there, that they will end up telling you what it is that they desire next. So instead of you kind of sitting at home spinning the wheels going, oh, I could create this and I could create that, and making things and putting them out there, and it kind of being launched to crickets because people aren't actually, desiring what it is that you're putting out there. Instead, you get to flip it. You get to grow a community at the same time. You get to build a community at the same time that you're growing an audience. So you're building a paid community at the same time as you're growing an audience. And then those people inside your community are saying to you, this is what I want next. And then you're able to go create that for those people. Like, it just makes sense. So my pathway back to how the MumBoss coaching and mentoring company has evolved over time is that after 12 months of my first membership, I then launched my second membership, and I ran that for, I'm going to say, at least a year, if not a year and a half, at which point in time I realized that the top values that I had for my business was always, like I said earlier, time freedom, flexibility. This was it. Like, this is what my business was for. I did not get into growing a business so that I could replace my teaching job 9 to 4. That was like not on the cards. I was growing a business so that I could get my life back. And I had found over the previous year that I was busy. I had found myself busier than I had intended when I was running 2 memberships, and I was showing up in the different spaces. And I was like, do you know what? It's not actually serving me and where I want to take my business. And it was a huge, huge deal at the time for me to go and tell those people in that membership that I was actually closing it. It was huge at the time, but that is what I did. And what I did instead was I created a group program that they were able to come into, a container that they were able to come into instead, so that they could continue getting support, guidance and mentorship from me in regards to growing their memberships that they had all launched in the previous year. But I was closing down that second tier membership. And so the place that then got created for them to be able to come into had actually, like, the content that was inside there had all been grown over the previous couple of years of me actually teaching the stuff, all the different workshops I'd given, all the different masterclasses I'd given, all the different time that I had put into different webinars. I had all this content that I was like, this is a standalone course in itself. And so then I got to sell my course on its own to people, a pre-recorded course that they were able to come into and access and watch in their own time. And I didn't even have to show up. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the evergreen model of my dreams. This is the passive income of my dreams. And so that's how I initially got started. I was like, with my courses, I was like, okay, bring people in and they just do the course, or they do the course and they get access to all the content there for free. At a time, not for free, they get access to all the content there at a time that suits them whenever they want. They can absolutely make their way through it all in a weekend, binge it if they so want, or they can take 6 months to watch it. It's completely up to them. And then what I found, as I was now a founder of a membership space, these coaching programs, and now courses as well, I realized how much work was going to be involved in kind of promoting that course and selling that course. I kind of had thought in my head it might just sit on my website and traffic would arrive there and they'd just buy it. And then I realized over time, actually, no, it's going to involve me still actively selling it and promoting it all the time. So again, this came around a little bit later, where I had to sort of ponder over what I wanted to be spending my time on doing. And I was also looking at the people who were achieving results inside my courses versus my memberships. And what I could really see was the people who were doing better and the people who were having more success were the people who were having direct access to my mentorship. Of course, because you're getting access to somebody who's been there before, you're getting direct feedback, you're getting accountability, you're getting guidance, you're getting all the help in terms of, here's the templates, here's the tools, here's the action steps, here's the strategies, here's the funnels, this is what you do. So of course, the people who are getting access to my mentorship were doing better than the people who are just watching the course in their own time, pre-recorded and just taking information in. And so I got to play around with things a little bit more again, and I decided to create a mentorship, like a 12-month mentorship out of this course material. So the people who are coming into this community creator space, whereby they wanted to design, launch, lead, grow and scale a community membership, they'd be able to access the course, get all the content that they need to be able to design this incredible space and do it at a time that suits them. And me, as the front runner of the business, didn't need to be available in order to share all that content with them in real time. So they got access to that. And I decided, because I could see the results were better for the people who were getting access to me, I decided to create like a 12-month mentorship in addition to the course. So in addition to the course that a person can get to design, launch and lead the membership, they're also going to get access to 12 monthly themed masterclasses from me, delivered specifically around community building, membership growth, connection and retention strategies, and the entire digital ecosystem of what running a membership can be. Because as hopefully you can hear from this explanation of my business model, the income, the wealth has not grown from the membership alone. The membership is the thing that has fed into all of the other offers that I've created in the business, whether they were events, further memberships, second tier memberships, courses, coaching programs or one-to-ones. So the membership is like the engine where I have been able to build a community in alignment with growing an audience. So I feel like the content that you're creating for social media isn't just going into the abyss of out there and it's not going anywhere. You're literally feeding people into a community instead of just growing an audience online. And then those people inside your community tell you, this is what I want next. And that has fed into the development of other offers down the line. And so financially, income-wise, when I look back through the years, the first year that I had launched that membership, I made €12,000 in that entire year. €12,000. I remember coming to the end of 2022 going, oh my God, good Jesus, I hope I'm able to do more than this going ahead. But that's what it was. That was what I made for the first year. Whereas then the 2 years after that, when I developed these different offerings that I've just talked about, it was 100K years that I made within those 2 years. So I was like, oh my God, this is really what it's about. And I've not needed to work more than 25 hours a week. I take extended holidays, and this business model has fed time freedom. Time freedom. It doesn't mean that you don't have to work hard. And I really, really want to get this across, because sometimes I feel like I'm so enthusiastic about this business model in terms of being a mum and it being a fabulous thing as a mum who wants to be at home with their kids. I get so enthusiastic about it that sometimes I feel like it might attract people who are like, oh, this sounds like something great to do. I'll be off all the time and I'll just have to show up every now and then inside my membership. And I really want to labor at home that the hours that I work in, I work hard in them. Okay, so I'm working not necessarily in my business, but definitely working on them. So you can't get into this thinking like it's just going to be easy breezy beautiful. It is going to take time, work, effort, energy, but I really don't think you should be in the business creation space unless you're willing to put that in anyway. And it really is a case of deciding what is worth the time, effort and energy that's going to be coming from you. For me, as a positive psychology coach and someone who's exceptionally aware of well-being and looking after my lifestyle first, I love to think, what is the business model for the future that I would love to be working in, and then putting the intention and energy into it today for the future. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope this episode has made it clear for you, who a membership is for in terms of, as a business owner, how early on in business you need to be in order to be a membership business owner. And, like I said initially, it is really about adjusting your expectations so that they are in alignment with your audience size at the moment. And then I hope the other thing that I've really gotten across is that the membership space as a tool inside your business model gets to be the engine that feeds into the other offers that you get to create down the line. And all of this can't happen overnight. You can't click your fingers and just have all these offers up and running. So it does take passion, heart and soul initially into your membership space to really grow it as a fundamental, beautiful place to be that's going to attract more and more people. And then from that place, you can start down the line over time, start developing other offers that you can then bring people to. So is a membership an income stream that is worth developing for you? I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm going to attach a resource, a PDF resource, to the show notes of this episode. Again, sharing a toolkit with you that's going to guide you through the different questions you'd need to ask yourself if you are considering starting a membership business. And it's also going to share marketing prompts with you in regards to the kind of content that you can start sharing online that is more in alignment with community growth than just value adds. Like a lot of social media stuff, creating content is about giving value and tips and tricks and strategies and all the things. And that's different type of content to growing a community space. When you're growing a community space, you are talking about values, you're talking about opinions, you're creating a common thread for other people to be attracted to you because of your similarities. And so it is a different way to go about creating content a very intentional way of building a community at the same time as growing an audience. Like, what a great way to spend your time instead of just creating social media content to just be thrown out there, you know, in the abyss and then lost after 9 squares. You know, somebody comes in, they're not going to typically look down through your feed over all of the different posts that you've had before. So it just feels like it's lost very quickly. Whereas with this intentional content creation where you get to grow a paid community, as well as your audience growth that you're doing online, you then get to move them into a community membership space where every single piece of content that you create gets to be leveraged. And if you haven't yet listened to last week's episode, I encourage you to go back and listen to that, because it is all about leveraging content, creating content that gets to live now, it gets to live in 3 months' time, it gets to live in 3 years' time. You get to use it in a variety of different ways in your business. And it's just a way smarter way to work. So hop into the show notes, get that free PDF resource download for yourself. And shoot me a DM or send me an email and let me know where your head is at in regards to community memberships. Is this something that you might consider for yourself? I would love to hear from you, and I'd be happy to chat back and share guidance with you in terms of where you're at and where you want to go. All right, until next week, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye bye.